greatest trick play in all of sports history happened in December of 1985, and we're going to tell you all about it coming up on Sports Talk with Dad right now. Welcome back to Sports Talk with Dad. As always, my name is Kyle, and I cannot call this Sports Talk with Dad without the man sitting next to me, a man who apparently thinks that he owns just everybody's house now, my dad, Tim.
I do not own everybody's house.
Okay, you're right. You don't think you own everybody's house, but apparently everybody's house needs to live up to your standards.
What, a house or a workbench area that's not covered with a foot of sawdust?
Okay. It was not covered with a foot of sawdust. There was a layer of sawdust.
6 inches.
It wasn't even 6 inches of sawdust.
Everywhere.
It was not.
It's over a ton of the golf clubs they left over at your house. I had to check to make sure they didn't get into the baseball cards I've left over here.
Okay. Background here.
Background
here. I made a project for my kids,
which was
for
beautiful.
Christmas. A wood project. That's what that area is for.
Months ago.
Wood projects. Everything was swept. There's a box of sawdust behind the bench because the box isn't full, so I haven't thrown it out yet. The floor is swept. There's no sawdust on the floor. There was a layer of dust on the workbench. Your baseball cards are covered up in plastic, as are the golf clubs. And I know that they're fine because you ripped the plastic off after freaking out.
I did
saying,
not.
My baseball cards better not have dust on them.
Yeah.
And they didn't. They're perfectly fine. There was a layer of dust on the bench itself you could just go like that, and it's gone.
You turned into a 12-year-old again, where it's like you finish something, but part of finishing it means you clean up after yourself.
It was clean. I just didn't wipe off the actual workbench itself.
I come over because, number one, I watched the women's amateur this Sunday at Augusta.
Yeah.
It's Masters Week, which meant I got to change golf grips, which I couldn't do because there was dust everywhere.
You could have easily done it. You could have easily done it.
I would have never went on. I'd be putting sawdust in with the grips.
I can't even do your golf clubs, which I like to do right now because we get to go and play golf because there's sawdust everywhere. And there's not.
By the
you know
way,
what it took?
Your wife agreed with me, by the way.
No.
Yes, she did.
Yes, she did. But it wasn't that dirt. It's a workbench. It's a woodworking area that I do woodworking in. There's going to be dust.
Your wife looks at me and goes, Dad, I told him to clean this up months ago.
It's my area. It's where it's covered in dust because that's where I do wood projects.
I bought you a vacuum,
and I used it, and I emptied it in the box that's not full, which is why it's still down there. All I had to do was take a rag and wipe off the workbench, which I did. It took me 10 minutes after you stormed out of the house.
I did not storm out of the house. If there are any other fathers who have had to deal with this with their adult children.
In their own homes, by the way.
How often do I have to change your grips?
You do it once a year. Twice a year.
Thank you.
Twice a year.
And you always use these grips that are really hard to take off because it's just hard.
I got bigger hands.
Anyways, it is Masters.
It is.
Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy are the favorites. We've got the par 3 tournament coming up on Wednesday.
Yes.
I can't wait.
I'm excited.
But it led me to a question.
Before you go there, I actually have a question that's popped in my head.
All right.
Does it not surprise you that Phil Mickelson is still not a part of this par 3 contest?
Well, he's part of the tournament.
He's part of the tournament.
He's going to be playing this week.
But he's at that age where you think he'd be a part of the par 3, or maybe because he's part of the tournament, he's not.
No,
but
he
seems to be
usually
left out of these ceremonies.
I see. Well, geez, I wonder why. I see a lot of players with little kids that participate in the par 3.
Yeah.
I don't know why he's not playing. He'll eventually play, and so will Tiger, I would think.
Do you think that live stuff has calmed down now with the PGA?
No.
I think it has.
They're going to come together at some point, but here's my question, and then I've got a generational question I want to get into. All these live players are used to playing golf with music and noise and everything going on. They come to a tournament like this, and it's deadly quiet.
Yeah.
It's got to be different to play.
Well, and they're not used to playing 4 rounds, which we've talked about before.
Yes.
Bryson DeChambeau, it doesn't seem to affect as much, but he's a different animal.
He's a freak.
Brooks Koepka, it seems to be not affecting him. He won a couple of majors, but now it's a couple of years later. It's I mean, it's definitely different. Koepka came out and actually said he's surprised the Live tournament hasn't come farther along at this point. I think everybody's missing the old PGA and how that worked. They jumped for guaranteed money and a lot of guaranteed money, so I don't blame them for doing it. I think that Live is going to slowly start to disappear because nobody's watching it.
No, and nobody watched the animation or hitting into the screen competition they did.
Nope, they've tried a couple different
simulator competition.
No, because who wants to watch people hit into a screen? I mean, that's an awesome technology for like you and I to go out golfing. I think that's cool because you get to actually putt, but it's not something people are going to watch on TV.
No. Fox is going to start broadcasting Live tournaments, so they're finally on a real network. I think they were on the CW or something before that. We'll see where it's going to go. They will come back together.
Yeah.
One of them will go away. My guess is the Live format will go away.
Well, PIF tried to buy PGA for $1.5 billion, and PGA said, yeah, no.
It's not even close to enough money.
No. Well, and I don't think there's enough money in the world where the PGA is going to sell. I just don't.
I don't either. And I think the players are going to lean into the PGA more because, as you said, I think the format with Live is running its course.
I think so, too. But your generational question.
Okay, so I've got a generational question. And we've had this debate several times, whether it was on the show or not, but
Jack versus Tiger.
Tiger or Jack, I sent you an image that I want you to take a look at.
Okay.
Tail of the tape. Now, I ask you this because Tiger just blew out his Achilles.
Yeah.
So he's now dealing with another injury, which is so sad.
It is.
Jack obviously has 18 majors. Tiger has 15.
Yep.
This is the one that always gets me, though, that puts Jack at a level no other player can touch. 19 times he finished second in a major. Tiger had that happen 7.
Mm-hmm.
Greatest player of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And Tiger has 82 wins. Jack has 73.
Where did Jack Nicklaus go to college again? I forget. That's right.
He went to Wisconsin.
The Ohio State University. That's where greatness goes.
He was from Ohio. His father was a pharmacist in Ohio.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Played at a private club, had a great teacher. And the thing I always liked about Jack, he would go back to see his teacher once a year. And then he basically coached himself through the rest of the year. He knew his swing so well.
Yeah,
Tiger's had a lot of coaches.
Well, and that's who was it that I was listening to? I can't remember now, where they were talking about, I think it was Gary Player. Yeah, it was Gary Player, where he was talking about how you have this coach and then all of a sudden you start taking lessons from people that have never won a major.
Right.
Like you're playing amazing because at that point, what was he at? Like 10 or 11 majors already? And then he starts taking lessons from guys that had never even played in majors before.
Never played on the tour in some cases.
Right. Like, why are you listening to those guys? Your swing's perfect. Why are you changing your swing around?
Well, he got so much bigger, too, which I do think led to some of his problems, especially with his back. I know he was trying to tighten things up, but he really bulked up.
He did. I don't know about that. I think genetics play a big part of that situation. But it could have been. I don't know. But it is interesting. That was an interesting take on it. When it comes to Jack and Tiger, I mean, if you look overall, yeah, Jack has the better stats all the way around, except when it comes to Pro Tour money earned.
And wins.
Tiger has more wins.
Yes. He's got 82. Desperately wants to get 83. He's tied with Sam Steen.
Tiger's lost 10 years. Jack has 10 years on Tiger. Because if you look at 2008, he won the U.S. Open with a torn Achilles, and he was never the same player again. So
Did he win a U.S. Open with a broken leg?
I think it was just a torn Achilles. I could be wrong, though. Something happened to his leg where he was really hurt, and some guy gave him crap for it for wincing and leaning into the camera, and then you find out that his knee blew up or his leg
whatever it was.
And it's like, yeah, you got to eat those words. But so from 98 to 2008, Tiger was the most dominant player we've ever seen in history.
He was.
And then he got hurt. And he hasn't been the same player since 2008. He started to make a comeback in 2009, was doing well, and then all of a sudden his back started acting up. He went through a divorce. He had some personal issues he was dealing with, and he's never been healthy.
look, it's going to be a what if.
Jack never
question.
dealt with that.
No, Jack. Well,
so if you look at
Jack walked away from the tour every year. You know, he built a schedule around the majors, but he took a lot of time at home to be with his kids.
He did.
Which, no judgment.
I think that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the 10-year spans, if you take any 10-year span of Jack's career versus that 10-year span from 98 to 2008, who's the greater player?
I think if you took Jack from 64 to 72, the records are going to be very similar. He dominated.
And they might be. I'm definitely not saying you're wrong. So this statistic is fun. It's fun to look at, and it shows over an entire career. Yeah, Jack Nicklaus had the better overall career. But if we look at the times where they were at their peak, those are the stats I want to see. This is very deceiving, what you've done today to make a point.
I have not.
And I did not know we were going to talk about this, so I have not gotten a chance to bring up statistics to counter this.
Majors top 10. Yeah, look, and I will freely admit, if Tiger doesn't get hurt, he wins more than 18 majors.
Correct.
I don't.
The runner-up stuff is amazing, where it was 19 versus 7 major top 10, 73 major top 10s versus Tiger's 41 is a huge difference. But again, I want to know what those stats look like for those 10-year spans, because that's where Tiger, I think, is the more dominant player.
I think they would be very similar. But then again, nobody won at as much or as in the amounts that Tiger did. And I will give you from 98 to 2008, I mean, it was Tiger and the rest of the world. Yeah. I think Jack played against a deeper talent pool. There were a lot of great golfers when Tiger played, but there wasn't Arnold Palmer, Lee Trevino, Tom Watson, Ray Floyd, and I can go on and on.
For the top golfers, yes, but especially come the 2010s and on, that field is much deeper, because the issue is when Jack was playing, you had to win or you couldn't keep playing.
Sure.
You wouldn't make enough money. These guys are making millions of dollars finishing 70th in tournaments with between sponsors and the fees that they win for being 70th in these tournaments. So they get to focus more time on golf than a lot of the other guys did. Yes, you had the Lee Trevinos. Yes, you had all those other players, Tom Watsons,
Johnny Miller, all these guys.
But from a deeper, I don't think you can say that there was a deeper field.
I think the talent of great players from, if you looked at the Hall of Fame players from 64 to 86, which was Jack's career.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see more great Hall of Fame players in that era than you're going to see from Tigers.
I don't know if that's true, because you had Payne Stewart during that time. You had
Payne Stewart was, I mean, we don't know what he would have done.
Right. But you had, who am I thinking? DeMarco.
He never won a thing.
Well, he just got beat by Payne Stewart. He beat Phil Mickelson. But you did have Phil Mickelson. You had, I don't know. I can't think of any other golfers right now.
There you go.
I didn't follow golf during that time, so this isn't a fair argument.
There were great golfers during that time. And let's face it, and when you're talking about the two greatest players, Jack and Tiger are going to be on Mount Rushmore.
Oh, sure.
And then you can argue if it should be Bobby Jones or Ben Hogan.
Yeah.
And I think Hogan compares favorably with these two as well.
I think so as well.
For his time frame. I just have always enjoyed the conversation, especially at Masters Week. These two greatest champions in the history of the game.
Yeah.
And this is an argument that's going to go on forever because Tiger got hurt. Tiger doesn't get hurt, and I will cop to this easily. He wins more than 3 more majors.
I think if he doesn't change coaches around, he wins more majors, and I think he might not even have gotten hurt. I mean,
maybe.
It's a lot of twist on that knee.
He started messing with his swing really early,
He did.
right after he started winning. And then he got to be spectacular, and he had that huge win. Why would you have changed coaches? Why would you have changed anything after that? I've never understood.
That's a question for Tiger Woods on that one.
And I am a mere mortal. I mean, I never played golf until I was in my 30s, and I said, look, I'm never playing this competitively. And thank God I never wanted to take it that serious. I would have lost a lot of money.
Probably.
Just would have been ugly.
But these stats are very deceiving.
No, they're not.
Because, again, it's overall career. And if you look at overall career, yes, as you can see again, Jack is the better overall career.
Yeah.
But, again, what you're seeing numbers-wise from Tiger is basically what he did in 10 years.
Well, Jack did it basically in 10 years. Yeah, he had the outlier when he won the Masters in 86. He was 46 years old.
But again, you're talking top 10s. You're talking runners up. You're not talking
73.
wins. All of these numbers, again, are in that 10-year period.
Jack is the one if I would want one guy who's going to win, I don't know who you take in that conversation.
Come on.
I don't.
Come on.
Jack at his prime would be every bit. And don't forget, the equipment was nowhere near as good as what Tiger played with.
Yeah. Can you say that, though? Like, the equipment was definitely different in the 90s, early 2000s, but it really didn't start to truly advance until
sure it did.
2012.
No, it was. Don't forget, Callaway came in the early 90s. TaylorMade had started to come in. They were playing with great equipment.
I'm not saying it was bad. I'm just saying you look at the equipment today versus the equipment that Tiger played with back in the day.
For us, it doesn't matter. I mean, we play with the most forgiving we can buy.
Right. That's true.
These guys play with a spoon.
Yeah.
Because they can work the ball right, left, do whatever. They're the two greatest of all time.
Deceiving stats.
It's not deceiving.
It's very deceiving statistics.
Jack is the guy I would take. If I had to make a putt, I think I'd go with Jack or Tiger because they both made hellacious pumps.
You have this thing where you don't pick one.
Tiger. Or I mean,
yep. No, okay, he said it. Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods. He would take.
Great. I would.
He said he'd take Tiger Woods. You said
Jack.
Tiger. You said Tiger.
You cut me off.
You said Tiger.
Tiger was great.
I said pick one.
I would take Jack.
I said pick one.
Yeah, and I would take Jack.
No, that was a Freudian slip.
It was not.
I mean,
I was going to say Tiger was great, but Jack is the guy I
said. I said pick one. You said Tiger.
Would you
End of story.
That's not fair.
Appreciate it. Speaking of greatness, the NCAA tournament is over, and Florida wins its third national championship after after coming back from down 12 in the second half.
It was. Look, the NCAA got everything they wanted. It was one of the best final games I've seen in a very, very long time. Yeah. And it came down to the last second. What amazed me was Will Clayton Jr. had a terrible game until
ice in his veins.
The last 5 or 6 minutes, and then he started draining everything, taking control of the game. Defense was unbelievable.
Yeah. Houston choked. They choked. That's all you can say is they got there at the end. They had a big lead. They relaxed. Florida made a huge comeback. Todd Golden is officially one of the best coaches in basketball right now.
So is Sampson for
Houston. Oh, for sure. Nothing against him. He has rebuilt a Houston program that was in the basement. If you look at the last 5 years, they have been Final Four, Elite Eight, and then Sweet 16 3 times, and now on to the finals. That is a dominant program. But you had a guy who had a final shot, didn't take the shot for whatever reason.
Okay, do you blame that on him or do you blame that on the defense from Florida? They were all over him.
They were. I mean, they weren't going to let them get that three. And that's my question, too. Houston is sitting there. You need 2 to tie, 3 to win. And they are going for the win. Why aren't you trying to go inside to tie the game and take it to overtime?
Because I don't think they thought they'd win in overtime. They had lost so much momentum. I think they thought they'd have to make the 3 to win it at the buzzer, or they weren't going to win in overtime.
Taking a game-winning or a game-tying shot for a 2-pointer swings that momentum right back into your favor.
You watch that last 5 seconds, 10 seconds of the game. Florida wasn't letting them get anywhere near going into the paint. They were smothering the ball on the outside, and that's where they stuck.
I mean, that was just, I don't know what they were trying to draw up, but you got to take that shot. If Clayton blocks it, so be it. You can get it back. But to shoot and then dribble, which is a smart move, by the way, because now he can't touch it or it's a travel and then it's a turnover.
He was in the moment, but it was a brain spasm. They didn't set up a good shot. They never had an opportunity. Give Florida's defense credit for that.
None of his teammates knew what was going on. None of them ran to the ball. I mean, it was just a bad play at the end. Great defense, yes, by Florida. A lot of confusion on Houston's side.
It
was a rough way to end the game.
Is this a little bit of karma coming in? Because when Houston beat Duke, the coach, Sampson, came out and said, well, they didn't handle pressure that well, and we were able to take advantage.
Oops.
Didn't age well. Did not age well at all. Yeah.
It was a great game, though. Congratulations, Florida. I hate seeing Florida basketball win because they beat my Ohio State Buckeyes in the finals.
I hate seeing look, I lived in Florida for a long time. Florida Gators fans make Ohio State fans look nice.
Do they?
Yes. Ohio State fans are awful. Don't get me wrong.
Okay, come
They're
on.
the worst fans almost, but they aren't quite as bad as Florida Gator fans.
Well, the great thing about Florida fans and Ohio State fans is they're not delusional, where you have Badger fans who think they should win the NCAA tournament and win in football every single year and get mad when it doesn't happen when they have no players.
I've never been that fan. I want them to win. I'd like them to get players, but they just don't seem to do it the last few years.
We saw great coaching from Sampson and Golden in the NCAA finals, and we thought we saw great coaching in Denver. However, the Nuggets didn't seem to think so because they fired their head coach, Michael Malone, just 2 years after winning the NBA championship.
That seems to be a trend in the NBA.
Let's get into this, because when I saw that, I'm like, man, how many times has this happened in the last few years?
Well, since 2016, I'm counting now 6 times.
That's insane.
You had Nick Nurse, coach of the Toronto Raptors. He won in 19. He was fired after the 23-24 season. You had Frank Vogel, who won in 20, was fired after the next season. You had Mike Budenholzer in Milwaukee, who won in 21, fired right after the next season, which, by the way, I'm going to put a big asterisk on this one. His brother had just died.
Right.
He was in mourning.
Should have never coached. And Giannis was hurt. The Bucks ownership should have looked at Mike and said, you go deal with your family. You go grieve. We've got the rest of this season. We'll come back next season. Budenholzer never should have been fired. No.
Okay. The next one was Mike Malone for the Nuggets. 1 in 23, fired in this month or a week ago, this week.
Yeah.
25. And then you also had Tyronn Lue,
2016.
And fired after the 18th season, in October of 18, so after the 17th season. These guys are good coaches.
Tyronn Lue is a bit of an asterisk, too, because, again, he took over for a coach that should have been given more of a chance, didn't get along with LeBron. That was a whole messy situation. They never really wanted him. He was just there, and then he won the championship, so you have to give the guy who wins the championship a contract, and as soon as they could get out of it, they did. LeBron was gone, the team was in shambles, and they're like, hey, we need a scapegoat, it's you. But why in the NBA, like, you win a championship, it's almost like these coaches, like a Doc Rivers, right, who gets close in the Eastern Conference Finals all the time, you know, with the Clippers, made it to the playoffs on a regular basis, but never won anything, yet he keeps getting these contract extensions, he keeps getting to stick with these teams and never gets there. But yet these head coaches that win championships for those organizations, things that they should be rewarded for years to come, all of a sudden are being fired 2 years later for not getting back.
Because normally if you win a championship, it's hard to keep that same core together.
It is. And in all of these situations, the core had changed.
A little
Denver,
bit.
not so much, but they've been tinkering with the roster.
In Milwaukee, you had Chris Middleton get hurt.
Right.
You've still had Giannis, of course, and Drew Holiday.
Right. And then Giannis got hurt.
And then Giannis gets hurt in the playoffs and is not there at all. Again, the Bucks are an outlier because they made a mistake. And how many coaches are they paying now?
But you look at Nick Nurse, though, you lost Kawhi Leonard. What do you think is going to happen? You lost a guy who at that time was the best player in the NBA, one of the most clutch players of all time.
But when you've got players making so much money, what's the easiest thing to change? You bring in another coach.
It just makes, and these coaches get hired right away, right afterwards.
Sure.
But I don't know why in the NBA, you don't see that in football as often. You don't see that in baseball that often. You really don't see that in a lot of situations. So why is it in basketball that it's such a quick turnaround on championship coaches?
I don't know, but it does seem to happen a lot. And the teams don't get better after they do it.
They don't.
I mean, you look at the Bucks, they haven't been the same.
Because the coach isn't the problem in those situations. They're not. The team has changed. With Tyronn Lue, LeBron left. You look at the Bucks. You had Giannis get hurt in that situation, and now you've changed the team around completely except for one player. The Raptors, I already said the Raptors, Kawhi left. You know, there's all these situations that cause this where it's not the coach that causes the issue. It's the team that's just not the same anymore.
It's a league that's run by the players. more than any other league, I think, even more than baseball.
Yeah.
And that boggles the mind. But in the NBA, and the game has changed. It just has from the 90s and 80s, especially, to now. I saw a funny bit where they were showing guys just getting just hammered back when Jordan was playing. And now you see all these guys doing flops that are Academy Award winning flops, and LeBron is one of the greatest at it.
Yeah.
They don't get touched.
Not as cool as the trick play that happened in December of 1985, but it is impressive to see how much these guys are flopping around on the court.
Yes, it is. Before we get to the greatest trick play in history, I have to bring up one baseball thing.
Okay.
Did you watch the Cubs game over the weekend?
Yeah.
What'd you think of their alternative uniforms?
Loved them. Caps were okay.
Caps sucked.
They were
softball. They were softball.
They're the
caps.
Brewers caps.
No, they were softball caps.
That's what the Brewers caps are.
Well, the batting helmets were cool. They had the white
caps were rough, but the uniforms and the pants, awesome. Loved them.
Would have been better if they bring back the 1984 uniforms.
No,
the royal blue instead of the baby blue.
No, those are absolutely hideous.
The 1984 road jerseys for the Cubs are probably the best they've ever had.
No, those are trash.
No, they weren't. I didn't like that there were pullovers, but that was everybody during that era. They should have been button ugly. Up. They were not. I want all the Cub fans out here who love the 84 team, tell him that the uniforms are fantastic.
Nothing to do with the team. It has to do with the uniforms.
The uniforms are
fantastic. We're not talking about the team. We're talking about the uniforms.
Yes. They were the best.
It's nostalgia. I get it. It doesn't change the fact that they were ugly.
I liked them at the time.
They were pretty terrible.
They're going to, well, I saw the new, I think it's a White Sox City Connect jerseys. They look like the Bulls.
Yeah.
They are the red with the black. And I'm like, what are we doing? And you and I talked about it at one point that the Brewers for a game should wear Packer colors.
Yeah.
And the Packers should wear the Brewers colors. I mean, you're in the same state, or Badgers, whatever.
Or Bucks, or whatever you want to do.
Pick it. Just flip it. And they're kind of doing that in Chicago. Who knows where the White Sox are going to be playing after a while because they still don't have their stadium issue taken care of. The Rays, by the way, we've talked about, and this is the last baseball thing, and then we'll talk about the greatest trick play in history. The Rays, the city of St. Petersburg, did approve $22.5 million to put the roof back on the Trop.
There's mold in the Trop.
There's mold all over the Trop. It's going to cost them another $30 million to get that place playable. After they put the roof on, and the roof, they'll be lucky to have it on by December.
Yeah. Baseball also told the Rays, it's okay. You can start looking at relocation. We completely understand.
I still think everybody laughs at me when I tell them that Salt Lake City is there.
I can tell you two things for sure.
Go ahead.
The Rays in 3 years will not be playing in Tampa, and the A's will never step foot in Las Vegas.
I don't think you're wrong on that. That stadium issue there has gotten bad, and I think leagues are realizing that Vegas is great for going on vacation. Yes. It's great for gambling. It's not good for pro sports right now.
It's not at all. All right. We have been teasing this. The greatest trick play in the history of all sports happened December of 1985, and it didn't even happen on the field.
No. So in 1985, the Washington Redskins were one of the greatest teams in the NFL. So the U.S. Marshals thought, let's try something. They sent out 3,000 invitations and told these 3,000 people that they had won tickets to see the Redskins play the Bengals. And there was a chance, we'll give you a brunch. And then there's a chance that you could win tickets to the Super Bowl. The U.S. Marshals brought in 144 highly wanted fugitives, gave them their brunch, made it a big show, and they were able to arrest all of these guys. It was the greatest fake out of all time. It cost them $153 per capture. These guys were not happy when they found out, oh my God, this is set up. I think the best part of it was when they first announced it, that you'd won from this company, and I think they called it Detroit, because it's If you spell it backwards, it means wanted. And the guy's name, I can't remember his first name, but his last name was Cran. Cran spelled backwards was Narc.
Wow.
It was brilliant to capture 144 fugitives from the Washington area. Good job, U.S. Marshals. That's when you're proud of law enforcement.
You think if you're wanted, you would want to, pay closer attention to certain things, and
that's how badly people want.
Or when you show up though, and you get this brunch, and you start looking around, like you got to think some of these guys knew each other, and they wouldn't think, "Hey, I'm wanted, you're wanted. Maybe this is a setup here."
They weren't getting out of that building, and they put on a whole show, but they were brilliant to get them. And yes, I would have thought if I'm wanted that badly, but that's how badly people wanted Redskin tickets at that time. They were the biggest game in town. Joe Theismann, I think, was still there. I don't think he'd been hurt yet in '85. I'm not sure. But they were a Super Bowl contender. People wanted that chance to win a Super Bowl, and instead they got to go and watch the game from behind bars where they belonged.
Very nice.
It was brilliant.
As you and I have had a great show, and as you all know, you cannot have a conversation with your father without your dad getting the last word, so it is all you.
I did not make a mistake. If I had to have one person play a round of golf for my life, I would pick Jack Nicklaus. He was the greatest player of my era growing up. He could play with a spoon. Tiger was great, but I'd still take Jack.
You said Tiger.
I was saying Tiger was great, and you never let me get past the Tiger. What?
You said Tiger, and everybody heard it. Thank you, as always, so much for watching. This has been Sports Talk with Dad. See you next time.
Bye, everybody.